second. So
Okay, perfect.
go ahead.
All right. Very good. Okay, we've got everybody. Well, welcome everybody. I'm going to call us to order. It is 8:02 p.m. and this is the October regular meeting of the Altadena Library District Board of Trustees. Great to see everybody here with us this evening, both on Zoom and on YouTube. So thanks so much for being with us. We are going to start, as always, with a quick roll call. So let's dive right into it. Trustee Andrews.
Here.
Trustee Capel.
Here.
Trustee Cervantes.
Here.
And Trustee Wilkerson.
Here.
All right. Before we take off our agenda, is there anything anybody would like to reorder or rearrange or mix it up? Do new business first and reports at the end because we're just feeling crazy. No? Okay. Then in that case, I'd ask for a motion to go ahead and approve and adopt the agenda as it appears in your board package.
I'll move.
We adopt the agenda as it appears.
Too slow, Terry. I heard Rushmore first, but do you want a second?
I'll second it, yes.
Okay, perfect. You raised your hand though, so I feel like you should get points for that. All right, motion's made and properly seconded. We'll do a roll call vote as we do with all of our things on. Oh my gosh, I'm just realizing. Okay, it's okay. We'll talk about it in a second. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. All right. So my outburst was because I realized that we have our resolution for the Brown Act stuff at the end, and I had a slight panic attack, but then I remembered it was on there, so we are okay. And as you guys recall, we are meeting currently under the extended every 30-day Brown Act process, and so we will, before we conclude our meeting this evening, we will renew that once again for the following 30 days, and we'll continue doing that as long as is applicable. So for this meeting and for the other ones, oh yeah, I am on the East Coast. That's right. It's 5:02. That's true. For this meeting and for all of our future teleconference meetings that fall under those conditions, we will have that resolution reapproved every 30 days. In the meantime, we've got our consent calendar. So the consent calendar this month includes 2 sets of minutes from our regular meeting on September 27th, and then from our special meeting on October 8th. So any changes or issues with any of those minutes?
Katie, I'll have to abstain from the minutes approval for the special meeting that took place on October 8th since I was not present.
Okay, well, we're going to vote on the consent calendar as one item, so you're welcome to abstain from the whole item. That's perfectly fine. Any other comments or issues on that? Okay, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent calendar, including those 2 sets of minutes.
So moved.
Okay, thank you. Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, we'll do a roll call vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Abstain?
And Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. So that motion passes with 4 yes votes and 1 abstention. All right, nothing removed from the consent calendar, so we move right on to our departmental updates. And tonight we have a special presentation from a member of staff, and I believe Isabel is here to share that with us. So welcome, Isabel. I will turn it over to you. Hi.
Thank you. Hi. Thank you so much for having me present today. I am very excited to share at the board meeting for my first time, and I'm going from home. So let me do a screen share and I'll share with you my presentation. Okay, and then let me do else? Okay. Beautiful, amazing. Okay, hi everyone. Thank you so much for having me, all of you. It's a great honor to be here. I will be sharing on a project and a grant-funded project that I'm working on this coming fall and winter. It is called Shared Landscapes: Mapping Teen Altadena, and I'm going to tell you a little bit about it. So this is a grant-funded project that I'll be doing. It is I received the California Humanities for All Quick Grant, and a little bit about that grant. Humanities for All is a grant program through the California Humanities, nonprofit partner of the National Endowment for the Humanities that supports projects in the public humanities. This is a little bit about the grant in particular. This program responds to the needs and interests of Californians, encourages greater public participation in humanities programming, particularly by new and/or underserved audiences. It aims to promote understanding and empathy among all our state's peoples in order to cultivate a thriving democracy, which sounds beautifully in line with all of our institutional values and goals here at Altadena. So the application I wrote with my colleague Erin Kimbrell, who is the innovations librarian. We sort of dreamed up this project in February of last year, or this year, sorry. It's been a long time. And we were awarded the full amount of our request, which is $3,400 in April 2021. Our project falls under the Youth Voices funding focus, and it is entitled Shared Landscapes. There we go. So what is Shared Landscapes? This is going to be a multimedia documentary project exploring the emotional geography of teen residents in Altadena, San Gabriel Valley, and beyond. The Altadena Library, with support from our lovely grant, will facilitate local young adults in creating photos, videos, art, written stories, and sound recordings that document locations of personal or collective emotional significance. And then these records are going to be collected and curated by teen volunteers and library staff. And then we'll share our final project as a digital story map and also an in-person exhibition at the library. So why are we choosing to do this? A little going off script for a minute, I guess. When Erin and I were thinking about this project in February, we were working from home. It was during, the height of the pandemic surge here in Los Angeles and Los Angeles County. And I think we were sort of grappling with like new understandings of what place meant to us, because we were maybe spending a lot of time at home more than we were used to, and like exploring our neighborhoods in new ways. And that was sort of where this idea was born, about like thinking about how teenagers must be going through this like relearning and sort of like refamiliarizing with their environments. So that led us to this sort of thesis statement, I guess, which is that teens are too often overlooked or undervalued in our communities. And yet they can be the most incisive and passionate observers of our societies and our environments. And I feel like I saw that a lot over the past year and change, that teens are really paying attention and really observant to their surroundings and to the world that they inhabit. So the goal of Shared Landscapes is to give teens the opportunity to share their impressions and experiences of local geography, and then to give the community an emotional impression and experience of navigating young adulthood in 2021. Because we believe that the experience of seeing familiar places through unfamiliar perspectives reaffirms the need to share these places with present, past, and future inhabitants. So how are we going to do this? This is the fun part. So we have two phases, collection and then curation. So through the grant funding, the library has purchased digital and film cameras, as well as AV recording equipment for teens to use in documenting their geography. These materials are going to be available through our Library of Things, which is a fascinating and fabulous growing collection. But obviously teens are welcome to use their own equipment as well. And then they can submit their art and documentation through a website page that we'll have, or in person at the library. And then we're also trying to, plan some outreach events with the Curiosity Connection, our mobile library, to sort of feature some group activities or passive data collection, and then doing data collection through maybe some group visits with some of our partners or schools, that kind of thing. Then for curation, I'm going to work with the Teen Leadership Council, which is our new sort of like volunteer service group that I started in September, I believe. So we're going to work with them to sort of review the final submissions, see what we want to include, because obviously I can't tell what is important to teens. They have to be involved in the process of not only documenting the places, but creating the narrative around the documentation. The digital story map will be hosted on Omeka, which is a web publishing platform for museums and library exhibits that I found through my MLIS work. And our grant funding has provided a 2-year subscription for a site. And then our collection will also be exhibited at the library, and we'll have a final public event, which will culminate the project and invite the community to celebrate and engage with the work, and sort of have a little exploration of Altadena through the lens of a teenager. Some more, basic questions: who, where, when. So teens ages 13 to 19 are invited to submit, or they can join the Teen Leadership Council and be involved in that curation process. Submissions can document locations throughout Altadena, but we also felt like we wanted to expand that to really include, San Gabriel Valley, or even if someone submits something from the greater Los Angeles County, we might not turn it down. So we're open to pulling from a wide net a little bit. Our final date for submission is going to be January 15th, 2021. And then our exhibition and digital story map are planned to launch in February of 2021. So about a month long to sort of put all the pieces together. And then I have this slide included because this is really important, not only to me, but to the Altadena Library District. These are some of our values. And I think it's really essential to acknowledge in a project about landscape and geography that we are exploring the occupied ancestral lands of Indigenous peoples, specifically the Gabrielino Tongva tribe. This land was not willingly shared by its Indigenous caretakers, and it was taken through colonialism and genocide, and these are operations that are ongoing and continue to have effects to this day. So Shared Landscapes is really an incomplete project in my mind without the participation of Indigenous youth in Los Angeles County, and even further, without the participation of youth from all marginalized backgrounds. The way that we want to accomplish this goal is to really push for outreach and promotion that engages teens who aren't established library users in order to create a fully representative exhibition of what it means to, navigate this part of the world. So the mobile library will be really instrumental in that, as well as the virtual services that I think we've all learned to deliver over the past year and a half. So that way we can really incorporate as many geographies as possible and make that grant funded equipment as equitably accessible. So that's it. And I'm here presenting because I really need I would love the support of, everyone at the Altadena Library. The success of this project depends on teen awareness and participation. And as some of you might know, teen awareness and participation is a really valuable currency. So I could use any support and help I could get in terms of just spreading the word about it. Do you know young people who might be interested in participating? Send them to the teen desk. Or do you have connections with school groups or youth groups who might be open to maybe a virtual visit, an in-person visit? I can come explain the project, see, have some maybe sort of practice projects of here, really fast, what's your favorite place? What's your least favorite place? That kind of stuff. So we can do some sort of passive or quick short form data collection. Please, again, connect them with me. This is my email. I work at the Altadena Library, the Teen Services Librarian, and always follow the Instagram. And that's my presentation. Thank you so much. I don't know if I'm doing questions or not, but if you have a question, please feel free to reach out.
We can absolutely do questions. Yeah, we have some time.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd love to open the floor up if anybody has questions for Isabel. Go ahead, Terry.
I'll go, yeah. It's not so much a question as a comment, and thank you, Isabel, for that. It sounds like you got together with Aaron and you just have this kind of creative, session where you're just talking through ideas and stuff like that, which I really like that as the beginning of an idea for something like this. Mm-hmm. And then, got it going, and that sort of adds a little bit more information that I need about how things run at the library and where people get their inspiration and so on. So I applaud that, collaborative thinking and making something come out of that. And I also applaud the subject itself, because every time I think that maybe we've run out of diversity projects, which we need to get more and more of those, there comes along another really good idea. I'm a photographer myself, and I like to think of myself as a creative person, so that really gets me excited to hear about a program like that. One question I do have, and it's going to sound naive, but I'm always trying to get more information about it. In terms of the grant writing and the grant sources, is there a project, or not a project, but a place where you all go to look for grant money that's posted for ideas like this? Or how do you actually creep up on a grant like that and make it work for you?
That's a great question. And thank you so much for all of your compliments. That's so nice to hear. And yes, truly a collaborative effort. This project wouldn't exist without Aaron. So big shout out to him. That's a great question about grants, because I feel like I also wonder that, and I'm a librarian. I'm like, where do people find these? And honestly, I'm trying to think where I found this grant. And I think actually Nikki might have sent it to me, like just forwarded me a listserv thing about like, hey, this grant's coming up. I think it was from a listserv for like librarians. Or I think it went out to librarians because it's a humanities grant. So I was in a orientation session with some of the other grantees, and it's school projects, it's museums, it's like nonprofits, they fund lots of different organizations. But yeah, the email listserv really comes in handy. And thank you, Nikki, for bringing this to our attention.
Well, thank you. Well done.
Thank you.
Other question? Oh, go ahead, Rushmore, please.
Hi, it's a great presentation. I really appreciate this, Isabel. I was kind of curious how you're going to do your outreach for the Native or Indigenous teams.
So my coworker, Melissa Aldama in Adult Services, has done some outreach with this group called Puku, which is an Indigenous, it's like a youth group for Indigenous Los Angeles County teens. And she has some contacts with them. She's met with them before, talked about possible collaborations. And I think that was done partly, and I found out about it through the community sort of asset mapping that we've been doing. So that's how it was passed along to me. So I think what I'm looking for there is really just to open the project to them, let them know about the project. If they would like to contribute, that would be really, valuable to me. And I think to the integrity of the project, obviously, to just, again, if they have anything that they want to add, I think that would be really important. And that was also why I expanded the scope to include Los Angeles County, because I just wasn't sure how I wanted to really I wanted to keep it about Altadena, of course, but I also wanted to create some opportunity for some more representation.
I think that's great, and just maybe a recommendation. But when you speak with some of those, reach out to them. You may want to share the history of the Tongva and their presence here, because they probably are not aware of that. So, as an example, there was a great article in the LA Times over the weekend about what happened in Chinatown in 1871, where there was a massacre of 19 Chinese people. And what's interesting about that is that many people that were involved in the Chinese American Museum, or certainly in Chinatown itself, who had been born and raised there, didn't even know about that until years later. I mean, some of them found out just a couple of years ago. So, I mean, it's just kind of interesting as you go about talking with these youth, make sure you kind of make that connection, so they really there's a nexus for them to not just talk about their experience, but really talk about history, so they maybe get them more interested.
Yes, well, I think that's the great benefit of doing these projects at the library, is I can always point people in the direction of, further research and resources. So thank you so much. Thank you for the question and the recommendation.
Any other questions or feedback for Isabel? I'll jump in and say I am so excited about this project. I think it's amazing. And I basically I'm going to restrain myself from geeking out with you for like the next 2 hours, because I did my PhD work on like space and place and how communities make meaning. I mean, granted, in like old timey times, but it's all the same stuff. And so like the theoretical underpinnings and all the ways in which, you know, authority and community and location interact, and to do this with a population of folks who like by their very nature are subverting structures of authority is exciting. It's really, really cool. So at some point, I may see if Nikki allows me to prevail upon on your good nature to hear more, because I'm really interested to understand some of the deeper pieces about how you're structuring it and how you're thinking about place and how you're thinking about meaning. And I think that there's some really interesting questions.
Yeah, I'm excited.
I'm excited.
Thank you. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And that's great to hear that. Right. We're on the same wavelength. And I am really excited to see what this project, what our call pulls up, you know. So
yeah.
Thank you all so much. Truly, really
thanks,
nice
Isabel,
to share with you all. And I will stop sharing.
All right. Well, thank you to Isabel, and of course, by extension, Aaron, for this this project. Excited to see the next iteration, certainly. All right, next up we have our departmental updates, and these begin on page 19 of your board package. And so, as usual, I will open up the floor for any comments or questions or feedback from trustees on anything in the departmental reports. Anything anybody'd like to highlight or dive into or ask about? Sorry, Rushmore, is that a hand on this one or still? Okay, got it. Go ahead, Jason.
All right, I gotta get better about this raising the hand thing.
No, it's fine. I was like giving static about it. Doesn't matter at all.
I mean, in addition to all the usual amazing stuff and seeing more and more grant money coming through, the one thing that stood out to me that I want to just give a shout out to is the teen services report and you know, reaching out to Planned Parenthood and figuring out how we can help get the word out on the vaccine, especially as that continues to expand to more and more youth and teens. So just a shout out to that. Appreciate the work that's being done. You know, just fulfilling our role in the health of the community.
Awesome, thank you. Any other comments or feedback on anything? Sherry, go ahead, please.
Looking at the teen services report from Isabel, it was interesting to see that there are some sessions that are helping school, teenagers work through themes that are concerns for personal and communal mental health and schools and things. And I'm hearing more and more in the media and elsewhere how this chunk of COVID time has really taken a lot out of the momentum for schools and actually put people back and created a lot of anxiety with high schoolers especially. So I'm glad to know that we've got a theme that addresses that and some of the work that's being done in teen services.
Absolutely, thank you for that. Any other comments or feedback? Go ahead, Jason.
Sorry, one more thing.
No,
I
please.
got there late and missed most everybody, but I just want to give a shout out to everybody that helped put on the 30th anniversary celebration at the Bob Lucas branch. And, you know, I mean, it's played such a pivotal role in the community for such a long time, and just, you know, thinking ahead to all of the work that we'll be doing, especially over the next year, with really, you know, getting the investment that library has and that branch has needed for such a long time. So it was great to see so many and hear that so many folks had come out and shown their support for the Bob Lucas branch. So thank you to all the staff and volunteers to help put that on.
Absolutely, I'll echo that as well. And I think if I'm saying this correctly, that Nikki told me that we had something like 400 people come out over the course of the day, which is remarkable. And just, it was great to have the family there, and so cool to have such a good turnout at that event. And I'm sure we'll see more about that in the board reports next month, but absolutely. Okay. Well, then I think at this time we'll move on to our reports section. That's section 6, and we'll begin with our foundation report. And so I will welcome Bridget. Hey, Bridget.
Hi. I love listening to all these reports, by the way. I know, weird, but I do.
No, it's like totally the best part.
I know, I love it. I love learning like the backstory of what happens at our library that we don't all know about. Actually, pretty positive report from the foundation. We just welcomed David Fields to our board of directors. So now we have 12 active board members. And that sounds so exciting, and I am excited about it. However, the reality is at the end of the year, 2 of our current directors will be not re-upping their terms after many years of service, and that's Kushan Bell and Leslie Dink. So we'll be back to 10, but that's still so much better than we've been for a long time, and I'm excited and feel like we have a really good, strong, and active board. So I'm excited about that, and we just keep plodding away, letting people know we're looking for strong, active, committed leadership on our board of directors. And then the other additional piece of information is our first employee, Dawn Smith, resigned simply because her own personal consulting business, you know, many of you know what that's like. She had out lots of feelers and was in the middle of a project that just expanded almost overnight. And then the feelers she had out came around. And so her time was much better used in her personal consulting business than with us. Fortunately, we were able to attract and hire Chloe Cavalier. So we are so excited about that. And primarily the thing that we were most excited about is her 5-year history with the foundation. She helped set up our database originally. So she's been able to literally hit the ground running, and we're very, very pleased with that. And quite excited that she submitted a 90-day plan at her interview. So that is really helpful to us. And she's dedicated to getting our database in shape and then helping us connect better with our donors. And then, you know, we are working on our planning retreat. We met last Thursday, and then we'll have our second session this Thursday. And Nikki presented the staff proposal for support. And so we'll be looking at that and then making decisions this week about what do we think we can support, how much do we think we can raise. And I think it's exciting because we're always challenged to step up our game a little bit, and I appreciate that. But also, just as by way of reminding all of you, we're always needing and hoping for your input. If you see things you would like for us to address or help with or whatever, let us know. And, also just a shout out to Rushmore for, he shows up and he really, Rushmore, we really, I just want to say I appreciate his commitment to the work of the foundation, and would be, of course, all of us would be thrilled if he could continue another year, but we'll see what happens there. But thank you. Thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Bridget. Really
Sure.
appreciate that. Any questions for Bridget while we've got her here?
I just want to thank Bridget and her leadership and and everybody on the foundation, even though I was out of country and missed it, for an amazing taste of Dina, since I haven't had the opportunity to thank her personally, but
Welcome.
amazing work on that event.
Go ahead, Terry.
And Bridget, I want to compliment you on having the number of people on your board as high as it is. It sounds like you've really done a lot of one-on-one work or whatever it takes to keep your board well populated and thereby energized, because people aren't doing too much work. You can spread it around and so on. So good job. That's a primary responsibility, and it seems to me you're doing pretty well. So thanks for that.
You're welcome.
Awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Bridget. Really
You're
appreciate
very
it.
welcome.
All right. Next up, we have a report from the Friends, and I think we have Sally Cruz here with us. So I will welcome Sally. Hey, Sally, how you doing?
Hello, everybody. Thanks for for the welcome. Sorry. Look, I've just had my booster shot, and I've got to tell you that I'm actually quite shaky right now and a bit fluey, and so my head's not right. But I have my report here, and it's short, and I'll just read it. On October 2nd and 3rd, the Friends had their large book sale, and we made $5,000. Well, actually, we didn't. We made $4,669.88. But we we gained over 50 members, and only a few of them were renewals. So we were pleased about that. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the library staff who helped us with such good humour and kindness. Jonathan, of course, he's absolutely amazing, and I don't know where we would be without him. Diego and Isabel, thank you. Michaela and Bryn, who, by the way, helped us almost pretty much on a first day. So thanks for that. And I'd also like to thank Bridget and Mark from the foundation for all their help as well. Their wrangling of the lines, and they just had showmanship, it was made a real carnival-like atmosphere. It was really great. Now, the Friends usually join the Christmas tree lighting ceremony, and unfortunately, that event is cancelled this year. We will hold some more small sales, Sunday sales, weather permitting, before our next larger sale in May, and hope to see you at one of them. So there it is, short and sweet.
Perfect. Well, congratulations on a very successful sale.
It was good, thanks.
And yeah, any questions for Sally before we let her go lay down? Go ahead, Terry.
Sally, is this your first book sale at the helm of everything then?
No, I presided over a small book sale just a little while ago, to sort of get my feet back in the water.
Okay. But the big outdoor grand poobah of book sales, you hadn't done one before, right?
Years ago, I ran a bunch of book sales, yes, but I had a 2-year hiatus where I wasn't on the Friends board, so things have changed. It's a lot. We do a lot more now, and we're more organised. And
well, all of that was just my way of leading up to a compliment, and that is that I went to the book sale myself. It was a hot day, but that was taken care of, and everybody did a great job. It doesn't seem to have missed a step. Everybody was there and having a good time, and the book selection, as always, was really good. So thanks a lot for
that. Thank you, Terry. That means a lot to me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
All right. Well, Sally, thank you so much for being with us. Really appreciate it. And hopefully the effects are not too long-lived, and you're feeling better soon.
Thanks very much.
All right. Thanks. Okay, next up we have our district director's report. This report begins on page 27 of your board package. And so I will hand it over to our district director, Nikki Winslow. Hey, Nikki.
Hi, good evening, trustees, staff, and community members that are watching. As you can see from my report, we continue to recruit and fill open positions in the district. I feel like I am just constantly onboarding. I think I've onboarded 6 people since July. So in terms of new staff, I am happy to introduce Danielle Galvan Gomez to the adult services team. She started with us on October the 4th, has experience working in other libraries, and has really hit the ground running, has been a great addition to the team. So welcome to Danielle. We're also excited to announce that our community partnership librarian accepted the position. I have announced to staff that their name is Ashley Killian. They go by they, them pronouns. Couldn't think of the second word. They're going to actually be moving here from New York. So there is a bit of a delay in getting them out here, but their background is really, really strong in community partnership work. So we're excited to bring them on board. Of late though, we've also received some resignations. So in the beginning of October, Christopher Kellmeyer, our IT and technical services manager, let me know that he would be resigning. He did give us 3 months notice so that he's going to assist with the recruitment and onboarding of his replacement, which I think is really wonderful of him and something we really, really need. He's got a lot going on always, as you all know, especially now that we're kicking off creating a library app. So he's helping me with that process, and I appreciate that. His last day will be January 7th, so you'll continue to see him for the next few months. I also received our Assistant Library Director, Victor Werberg's resignation earlier in the month as well. His last day was actually today. Both of those vacancies were posted. I have them on government jobs, the CLA Career Center, and other places, and we have them listed as open until filled. I have actually scheduled both external interview panels for mid-November for both positions. So fingers crossed, we'll continue to get some good candidates applying. And I would really like to see us onboarding these new managers later in the year, but more realistically, probably in January is what I'm thinking. And then just this past Friday, our new administrative services manager, Tony Rainey, submitted his resignation, basically effective Friday. So that was a little bit of a surprise. I did meet with our accountants both on Friday as well as today. And Ide Bailey is going to kind of step in and take on finance for us as we figure out a plan to fill this position. When we did the recruitment and hired Tony, I spoke to our accountant, Cindy Byram was the one that helped me with that recruitment. And we really felt like maybe the position job description wasn't attracting the right candidates, because really a lot of what this position does is pay the bills. You know, it's like handling the bookkeeping, the finance, and cutting checks, paying bills online, payroll, which I continue to do actually. So Cindy and I are probably going to be putting together a different job description and bring that to the board later this month. But in the meantime, Ide Bailey is going to help us with the finances. So more information to come. Honestly, I'm pretty exhausted thinking about all this, to be honest, but we will continue to hire and bring on good candidates to fill these positions. Okay, let's see. In terms of current service hours, we continue to update them based on demand. So most recently, starting on October 15th, we're now open on Fridays and Saturdays from 10 to 5 rather than 12 to 5. There was interest expressed by both parents and children as well as adults to have programming on Fridays and Saturdays, typically at like 10 or 10:30 a.m. So we did expand that. Bob Lucas continues to remain open Monday through Friday from 12 to 5, and passport services continues to be available 6 days a week by appointment only. There's that. I did notice on my statistical update that the third line didn't have a description. I must have deleted that accidentally. That should say live chat sessions as that third line in the statistics. As you can see, our stats continue to grow. I was really glad to see all of the new library card signups that we're getting, as well as the popularity of the library of things items. So again, we continue to grow that collection, and it seems to be really popular with the community. So yeah, and then the other thing that occurred to me is I really want to start building in some statistics around outreach and the Curiosity Connection. So I'll continue to expand what you're seeing here, probably some programming statistics as well. So again, this is kind of a work in progress and not the prettiest thing I've ever created, but we'll continue to work on that. And then to finish up my report, I also wanted to commend the foundation for a really successful Taste of Dina, raising almost $31,000, which is amazing. I was also really touched that Assemblymember Holden came. He spoke, he presented the giant check to us, and he's just such an avid Altadena Library supporter. I think we're very, very lucky. Not only did he get us $250,000, but he's just present and a really nice guy. On top of it, Senator Portantino came as well, a little bit later in the night. But I mean, I just like am amazed at how present our elected officials are. So wanted to thank him publicly for that. And kudos to Diana Wong, our branch manager over at the Bob Lucas branch, as well as all of her staff and the staff in the district that helped put together that celebration on the 16th. Yeah, to Katie's point, I think Diana told me they guesstimated about 400 people that came over those 5 hours. So yeah, great job, guys. It was really fun. And really great to like get to meet all of Bob Lucas's family that came. He had people fly in from Minnesota for the event. From Minnesota. I mean, it was amazing. And they also donated $2,000 out of the Bob Lucas Trust to the branch to use for whatever they need, probably literacy related things. So again, kudos to the staff for all of the events that they're planning. Second Saturday was also really fun. Hope to see a lot of you at Second Saturday in November as well. And we're busy planning for next year too. So happy to answer any questions you have. Just wanted to keep it a little short and sweet tonight.
Okay, thank you. Let's open up the floor for questions. Jason, go ahead.
Nikki, just completely random thought that popped into my head, just partly based on like all the news stories about difficulty finding employees and whatnot. Have there been any thoughts about if the financial position is something that would be able to be a remote work position? I don't know if that might help us with recruitment or at all, but just a thought that I had.
Yeah, as we recruited both that one as well as the marketing specialist, that was something that was discussed with the candidates, that once they're comfortable in the position, they've got the lay of the land, that if there is a couple days a week of remote work that makes sense, that we would definitely allow that. They do need to be here to cut checks and do some things in person, but I don't think it has to be a 40-hour a week in the building type of situation. But yeah, we'll definitely explore telework as an option because they can get just as much done in a lot of these tasks as when they're in the building. So yeah, definitely something we're considering.
Other questions or feedback? I mean, I've said this to you, Nikki, in our weekly conversations, but I think, some of the things that we're seeing with staff turnover are also the effect of like a library system that is growing and is changing. And it's been through a lot of transformation. And I think that some of that turnover is probably really natural. And so I am very encouraged by the quality of librarians that we're bringing on board and the quality of library staff that we're bringing in. And as frustrating as it is to have people come in and go out, I do think it gives us a chance to iterate and find, the better fit and to figure out what the needs of the district are. And I just want to thank you for picking up the slack, because basically when all these folks, come and go, you end up doing their jobs when they go. So thank you. I know it is exhausting, and just, thank you for hanging in there. And we've got your back, and we'll get a full staff in, and we'll be in good shape. But yeah, it's a grueling process, I know.
Yeah,
Harry, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Comment from me, Nikki. I agree with Katie there about the idea that you've got a lot going on. Reach out to us as needed for any help that you might need. I'm always personally happy. I know the others are as well. I wonder though, one thing that I wonder about our library right now, when it comes to hiring new employees is if it seems to me to be a really good story that the fact that we've gone out and gotten $24 million in capital that we're going to raise with a community that completely supports us. And we're going to do some really interesting and novel things with our building and our programming and everything else. So if there was ever a library, it seems to me, that was ready to go, at the starting line, it would be us. And does that come across in the interviews that you have? Are people wowed by that story, or is it kind of ho-hum? How does that go?
Overall, I feel like the candidates that we end up hiring, especially like to Katie's point with the community partnership librarian and the librarian positions, especially they are really excited in seeing the work that we've already done, especially as it relates to the community asset mapping and our EDI team and the training that we've invested in that. I think people are really excited to come work here. Yes. Because they see that there's a little more freedom and flexibility to carry out different initiatives, programs, projects, and things like that. So yeah, the ones that have done the homework and know that going into it are really excited. Yes. It's just a really weird time to hire, and I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah. It just is.
It's all over.
And I'm told that by, the accountants told me, everyone they work with, paychecks, my HR consultant, she said every agency she works with, it's just like really a tough time. So we just got to persevere.
Hang in there. Thank you.
All right. Anything else for Nikki on the director's report? Okay. Nikki, are you going to stay with us for our financials?
Yep.
All right, let's do it.
So there's not too much in reading through Tony's report to comment on. I mean, August was kind of a boring month in terms of finance. So year-to-date target right now is 17%, and we're expended at 21%, I believe, at the end of August. It is overexpended a little bit because of us making lump sum payments at the beginning of the year for things like the unfunded liability with PERS, the workers' compensation payment, and just a couple other things that basically get front-loaded at the beginning of the year. As you also know, we pretty much get paid twice a year. So our big check will come in December. So until then, it just looks like we're in the negative. But again, that's why we have to have those 6 months of reserves on hand. I did notice when looking through the reports that the color coding we talked about for the donations and grants hasn't been done yet. Being that I'm going to be working really closely with Ide Bailey, we will make sure that's in effect by next month as well. But again, there wasn't any huge expenditures or revenue this month, so not too much to report, which isn't such a bad thing, honestly. I think staff's doing a great job with spending in terms of materials and other things to keep us on track to hit our targets this year. So,
Rushmore, go ahead.
Thank you, Nikki. Just a couple of quick questions on facilities, ground, and maintenance, which is at 31%, as well as on the programming side, adult services 32%, and specifically youth services at 42%. Obviously, those are higher than you would be at a second month of the fiscal year. So is that due to front-loading expenses, and do we anticipate that we're going to have a smoothing out towards the end of the fiscal year for those three categories?
I do have Jonathan in the room if he wants to talk about why we're at, 31% with facilities, grounds, and maintenance. Jonathan, as after 2 months. Is he there?
I see him on the list, but I don't know.
Yeah, and I was also looking because like with the programming, adult services is split also. They have 10,000 towards programming that's in the donation and grant fund. So I believe that they actually have a total of 25,000, which would put them closer to that like 17%, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I mean, that kind of goes to the accounting of the grant monies versus the monies the grants are supposed to be utilized for.
Yeah, and I thought we were going to try to charge two donations and grants first. So yeah, I'll have to talk to the accountants about that as well.
Yeah, Nikki, this is Mei Ling. So yeah, YFS, almost all of that, because we've only spent like 400 actually from our budget, is from the copycat grant and the virtual programming grants. So that's all of those expenditures.
Should be charged to the donations and grants.
Yes.
It just reinforces the need to be able to show the grants and the expenditures to
Yep.
offset each other.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, and honestly, like now that you're explaining how that is working, I didn't totally understand. It seems like I agree we need to have the grant money and the grant expenditures tracked together, but it seems kind of bonkers that if the real adult services budget is actually 25, like the budget should say 25.
Well, if you
Yeah,
actually
I
go to
mean,
the last page, it has the shared expenses combined.
Right.
So that has your
Right.
year-to-date donations and grants general and then combined total, which with adult services puts them at that 19%.
at 19%. Yeah, no, I get it. But
Yeah.
maybe, well, and maybe this is like, maybe Cindy or Ian or BI Bailey folks have a way of representing this better. Because I get the impulse and I know what we're trying to do.
Mm-hmm.
But, and I remember this conversation from last month and I still didn't get it.
Yeah. I'll keep playing with that with them for sure.
Okay.
Thank you.
Of course.
Other questions on financials? Go ahead, Terry.
I guess a question and a comment. The comment is on Anthony's report. At the bottom there, it's got that footnote regarding what the pay dates are for us, and I sure wish we'd had that a few years ago because I could never understand that. So we've got this whole string of automatic deposits that are laid out there for us. So that's a welcome little kernel of understanding now that I have about how that's working. And the second part, still like all of us getting used to some of the new formatting, which I think is good. But just a quick question, when you look at revenues under the capital fund, I know we're trying to keep the revenues in that fund separate, not commingle them. We talked about that, Nikki, with what's going on in the general ledger. But you look at line 2, it says use of reserves, $299,000, and then transfer in from general. So I just wondered, I guess, what the use of reserves term means. Is that just another way to say transfer in from reserves at some later date?
My understanding of why it's laid out that way is so that it zeroes out.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe next month I should have Ian here to go through the financials. Because like, to be honest with you, we didn't get all of the numbers we needed to Bailey to get these out for me to see before basically we published the package. So like, there's been some definite issues with our finances that need to get corrected. Well,
and also with the formatting that's kind of new to all of us, it'd be a great chance just to ask all of our questions at once to sort of get oriented. So
yeah,
I'm sure Rushmore, you got a pretty good idea what's going on here, but some of it just goes right by me.
Right. And just so you know, our next budget committee meeting is on the 4th of November. So we'll be reviewing this and discussing potentially, it's a little early for mid-year adjustments, but that'll happen a little later. But certainly we'll want to look at the formatting once again. I think we've come a long ways. We just got to refine it a little bit more so we're all comfortable with these numbers.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, but we'll plan on having the accountants come to our next meeting.
Okay.
I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else on the financials? All right. Good enough. Thank you so much, Nikki. So let's keep moving. We're into our committee reports. I show no report from the budget committee. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. We have a CFD committee report, which appears on page 39 of your board package. So Terry, I'll hand it to you.
Okay, thank you. That was a meeting that we took the first look at some documents that will be wound up in a resolution that we need to pass. It looks like it won't happen this year. It'll probably be early next year because of delays and stuff that set up the CFD so that we can receive bond money and distribute it and so on. And the items are a fiscal agent agreement with US Bank, a bond purchase agreement with Hilltop Securities, preliminary official statement that's produced by BB&K, and a continuing disclosure agreement, which is sort of an oversight agreement that is done with NBS. We've got agreements with all these people in place, but we as a board have to send a resolution that says we've got all this and we've got the agents in place to make this whole thing happen. This was a meeting that was an information only meeting. We did no voting or anything because we wanted to take a look at this package, which was pretty big and pretty technical, about 160 pages of a lot of stuff. And we made some good headway on it. I really got to take a shout out to the members of the Community Facilities District Committee, you know, Rushmore and Kim Kenny and Amy and Jim. We're always managing a quorum, and we're always managing to get a fairly boring but necessary piece of work done. And thank you very much to them. There were some great questions asked, and we moved this along. So that's I'm kind of making a long-winded story out of this, but we looked at preliminary documents. We're getting them lined up for a final review or another review by our committee before it goes to your committee, and we can recommend it. And that should be happening sometime in January, I'm thinking now. And Nikki, would you agree with the timing on that?
Yes, I would agree to that. We should have all of the documents to the CFD committee for final review at their meeting on December the 8th, and then plan to bring that to the full board at the December 20th meeting. Once all of that has been filed and approved by the board, then we can move into actually doing the bond issuance.
But we're really in the weeds right now from a legal and technical perspective. And once we get through this and all of the elements are in place, it's simply the money comes in and we know how much we have to spend for the next phase of our construction. So,
yeah.
Any questions?
No, just thank you. And thank you to the committee for doing all of this really important due diligence, because it is a ton of work, and we're all very grateful for you guys doing it. All right, next up we have our facilities committee report. So Jason, I will pass it over to you.
All right, thank you all. So I'll just try to summarize the report that's in the package. Pretty straightforward. I'll provide some additional updates. We do still have an open seat for a community member for the community focus group. So if anybody knows anybody that might be interested, let us know. We are on track with the seismic evaluation. We should have the final report by the end of the year, which is good timing, as we expect to be able to begin our work with our architectural firm around the beginning of the year. On the hazmat evaluation, so the report has been finalized. I guess what I would say is nothing that I wasn't expected for a building, for the buildings and the age that they are. We, as far as any contaminants that do exist, the committee has asked our management company to circle back with them and just get an idea of some cost estimates for remediation options, just so we at least have those options in front of us. No change at this point as far as the offsite facilities. I just want to highlight it continues to be on our radar, but there won't be much happening on that till we have a better sense and we get further along with our architectural firm. not a whole lot of update as far as coordinating with county departments, other than, our team at Rakeland is continuing to stay on top of that. And then the last thing I do want to highlight, in case anybody on this team or anybody listening in has any connections, we've made it a point, and Katie's really been great on leading on this around, we don't want to just do the minimum when it comes to making sure our facilities are accessible by everybody. We really want to do as much as we can around, what is known as universal design. It hasn't been terribly easy so far to find somebody with that expertise, but that is something that we're continuing to work on with Rakeland as we move forward, especially as we continue to move forward with getting ready to eventually hire an architectural firm to work with us. So those are the main updates. The only other thing I would say is we're most likely going to be looking at our next community focus group meeting sometime in December, after we have an architectural firm on board, so that we can have the initial interaction with everybody. And lastly, I'll just say is the RFP for the architectural firm closes on Friday. We have gotten quite a few questions from groups that are interested. So non-scientific evaluation, just based on that, we are confident we will have a great number of responses, and that'll get us to the point where we can hire somebody amazing to work with us. Anything I missed, Katie or Nikki? Questions from the rest of the board?
Great. Just a quick question. Are you looking for an accessibility consultant in addition to the architect? Is that what I'm hearing, Jason?
So, I mean, most of our experience from ARG is that everybody has a quote unquote accessibility specialist with that certification that exists. What we're looking for kind of goes beyond that, right? There's this concept called universal design, which it really goes a lot further. But it seems to be quite the niche, and so it's not as easy to track.
Well, it is, yeah. I mean, and you've got state and you got federal different guidelines. I know some people I could go back into my Rolodex and see what I can come up with to serve as I guess a separate set of eyes on top of the architect to ensure that we're getting the most I guess, universal friendly design possible that you're basically going for. Okay. I'll see what I can come up with then.
Kind of, yes. Yeah, I mean, that would be very helpful. I think what the deal is it's less like, plan review and code compliance, and more, hey, what are some of the best principles and what are some of the cutting edge ideas about the way that we design buildings that work really well for neurodiverse people, that work really well for, people with different levels of mobility. So it's not so much are we meeting the
minimum,
minimum, but what are what is the best thinking and what is the latest kind of greatest approach to designing really interesting, inclusive, flexible
we want to go above and beyond
spaces. Absolutely, yeah. So anybody you can, we've been pounding the pavement. Rackland's been doing a great job too, but yeah, if there's anybody you can throw our way, we'd love it. We're yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
I'll check my Rolodex. Okay.
Appreciate it. Okay. Anything else on facilities? All right, let's forge bravely onward. Camila, anything you want to share on redistricting? Okay.
No.
Then.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we're just working on connecting with Douglas to get a meeting to get started on the visioning process for that.
Got it. All right. I did see, this is probably a good time to bring it up. I did see an email from you, Jason, on redistricting observation. Do you want to talk about that now? it's not agendized, so obviously not an action item, but if you'd like to just kind of share your thoughts on that front, we can figure out what we need to do. Yeah.
Now is fine. Or, I mean, I was going to bring it up at the suggested agenda items, but if folks haven't seen yet, there's been a lot of buzz in the last few days on Facebook and Nextdoor about the initial proposed, or I think they call them vision maps, for the congressional district that includes Pasadena and Altadena. And the current proposal would actually split us up and move Altadena into this the congressional district that covers most of San Fernando Valley. So I just wanted to put it before this board, as the only officially elected body of Altadena. I personally think we should take a position on it. I don't think it makes any sense in the world to split us up into a different district. That's my personal opinion. But I do think it would be worth placing it on the agenda for this board to discuss if it would be appropriate for us to take a formal position on it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we can 100% agendize that for November. I was having a conversation with a couple of folks today, one of whom was formerly part of Assemblymember Holden's office, on the same question. Everybody's kind of scratching their head going, what's that about? That seems weird. But yeah, I think we'll also have a little bit more information by the time we get to November. So we can definitely agendize that. So thank you for bringing it up. Okay. So liaison reports. We do have a government liaison report from Terry on page 41 of your board package. So Terry, you want to take it away?
I'll take it away. This is pretty much a one topic government liaison report. There was nothing that kind of caught my eye more than this month. But this is an interesting one, and it's if you've read it, it's about the Department of Regional Planning, as I reported probably last year, had undertaken a survey in October. Katie, I know you're familiar with it because your name is listed on it. That was producing a historic survey of resources associated with Altadena's African American community. And it was a really good report, and it wound up actually winning some awards, the latest of which, or one of which, was presented at the Altadena Town Council meeting last Tuesday. And the company that did this is called Sappos Environmental, and they have a contract with the Department of Regional Planning for things like this, with historic preservation and so on. They had a study that was pretty good, all things considered, in that it was limited by time because of COVID. It was only able to last a few weeks. And it was limited, of course, by money, which was provided by the Department of Regional Planning to $37,000, I'm told. And it was incomplete. And it was incomplete in a way that impacts us, I think, a little bit. And that is that they kind of stopped short of dealing with Bob Lucas and the Bob Lucas Library and the legacy there. They did a lot of oral histories about the rest of Altadena, and they made a fabulous catalog of homes in Altadena. And one of the little benefits that we get from a community facilities district point of view is the idea that homeowners that were eligible for property tax breaks based on refurbishing their historically designated home, there's a bunch of them in the neighborhoods around Altadena, they get a tax break for that. I thought that was kind of interesting. It's called the Mills Act. At any rate, I'm kind of rambling right now. I thought it was a shame that the Bob Lucas Library wasn't closed as a subject, as a topic in this study, especially given that it had won awards from the Association of Environmental Professionals. That was the one that they received at the town council meeting, the LA Conservancy, and LA County Preservation Award. So by all accounts, this was a really important survey. And they elected to do Altadena rather than the city of Los Angeles because we had, I think, we're easier to measure. We had more sort of interesting stuff going on. So my, I guess, dilemma is, well, gee, should we somehow, the library, get involved in, trying to push to the finish line the work that was not completed on the Bob Lucas Library? So as I go back to the resolution that we made as a board about the government liaison position, it says that the position should be able to speak, decide, and vote on the board's behalf when representing Altadena Library District or the Board of Trustees at meetings, conferences, collaboratives, or other convenings within the liaison's jurisdiction. Now, in all that language, I wonder if there's enough go ahead for me to write a letter or to contact the Department of Regional Planning and follow up with them a little bit about whether they plan to make a move on what I would consider, and I imagine all of us would, an important part of that survey that was left out of the historical record that they're making. So I don't know, that just seemed to me to be the right way to go on this. And I guess with this report, I'm sort of asking your opinion on that same topic. Any questions or comments on this?
So, if you don't mind, I'll jump in just because I was sort of involved in this process. So there's a little bit of backstory that might be helpful. So originally, what we were told, and by we, I mean, I was sort of kind of there on behalf of the library, and there were folks from town council and folks from Altadena Historical who were sort of this small convened collective of people to help give some local direction to Sappos and the DRP folks. And they said, we picked Altadena because of its tremendously important history and because of the continuous presence of a Black community here that has not really been, the story of which has not necessarily been recognized, by sort of the LA County powers that be. And we all said, yeah, that seems totally right. And then they said, we're going to do this in 4 weeks. And we said, that seems super unrealistic, but, we will help you. And as part of those conversations all the way along, there was this consistent thread from all of us who were sort of on the Altadena side of things of like, listen, it's great, take it as far as you can go, but we would love to be able to pick up and do the rest of this properly, because, there's as you very correctly identified, the stuff about the Bob Lucas Library is missing, but there's plenty of other stuff that's not there as well, because, it's not realistic to try to do a full survey of Altadena's history in 4 weeks. And so we had been assured by the DRP folks and by the Sappos folks that no, we're collecting stuff, we're going to have all these materials, and that there would be some stage 2 once the report was made public, which I think didn't happen until September, maybe. Okay, yeah, so quite recently. So I feel like the most logical thing to do based on all of that would be to go back to probably Veronica Jones at Town Council, and whoever Altadena Historical says hey, this is the person, because they had Eric was there and Daria was there, and there was a number of folks from Historical who were involved as well. And I would check with them, with our partners first, and see kind of what their thinking is and what they'd like to do. And then I would say as a coalition, it totally makes sense to go back to Sappos and to DRP and say hey guys, we'd like to, if nothing else, we'd like to archive some of this material, right? Because there are oral histories, there are, a lot of it was sourced by our local partners. And so it'd be good to know, what preliminary research did they do? What stuff were they not able to use? And to be able to figure out kind of what the work in progress situation is. And at that point, I imagine, we've got umpteen talented staff members, and we have a new community partnerships librarian. I think we have plenty of capacity on our side to pick up the ball, but I would start with our partners first, because they were in the mix from the get-go.
Now, this is Eric Mulfinger you're talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Veronica Jones, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I mean, I don't mind, trying to chat this up with some folks and figure out what's going on, but it does seem to be a shame that it would be left incomplete. And it seems to me that you've got some pretty good face-to-face information there, Katie, that I don't have. It seems to me, though, that from what I can tell, that the Department of Regional Planning is walking away from this a little bit. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I think they're done. They were like, we have this grant money, we need to spend this grant money. it was a one and done for them. Like there
Okay.
was never any indication that this was going to be, you know, the first in a series. But I do think that there could be the potential, you know, for some sort of maybe collective grant writing locally, whether it's, you know, library and historical society, who knows, right? But I didn't get the impression from the regional planning side that they were at all interested in continuing beyond
Okay.
this stage.
Well, I'll ask the question, are we, I know I am, I mean, it seems like something that would be nice to close the chapter at least on Bob Lucas. And I mean, I don't want to make a move, you know, without some endorsement or some, you know, energy from the rest of the board. So is that something you want to just think about this for a month and put it on the agenda for next month?
I mean, yeah, we can. I don't know if we need to even agendize it in the sense that it sounds like maybe the first thing to do is just to reach out to our friends at town council and historical and see where they're at. Maybe they've heard something we haven't. Like it's totally possible Veronica knows something or Eric knows something that has been communicated to them. I haven't heard anything, but that doesn't necessarily mean much.
Okay, well then, under the authority given to me by that passage I read you, I'll go ahead and make a couple of phone calls before the next meeting and see what we can come up with.
Yeah, and if I can be helpful, let me know, because I know there was a fair amount of, there was very compressed work in a very short span of time, and I didn't do much besides provide feedback on a couple of drafts, but I know a lot of other folks did a whole lot of heavy lifting in connecting people to local resources, people who are willing to do oral histories. So there was a ton of work that was done. And I'm delighted for Sappho's that they won an award, but I think an award is probably due to the people who made all of it happen on the local level.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, good.
Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. That's it for me.
All right. Okay, trustee reports. Anything anybody wants to throw out there as a trustee report? Speak now, forever hold your peace.
Can I just say real
Go
quick?
ahead, Jason.
I mean,
yeah,
just in light of the conversation we just had, it's just amazing how in communities like us where different groups intersect. So I just want to just also highlight, you know, so many different people are working on bringing out and bringing forward this history. One of our leaders in the mountain bike community has actually begun researching the history of, there's a trail, if you don't know, called El Prietro, probably one of the most popular hiking and biking trails in the entire front range of the San Gabriels. And he's begun researching the history of not just that name, but the person behind it, their history in LA. And it's absolutely amazing, and the work that's being done to hopefully eventually have some signage and all of that kind of stuff along the trail, similar to what you see at Mount Low. So yeah, it's kind of exciting. I mean, it's disappointing to hear that somebody thought they could research the history of a community in 4 weeks, but to your point, Katie and Terry, the other folks in the community that are doing the heavy lifting to bring this history forward is pretty amazing.
yeah. I didn't know that. I'm going to be really interested to hear more about what they turn up. That's cool.
Yep.
Okay. All right, we are on to new business. So we've got a number of policies and sort of kind of routine annual things to do, as well as our resolutions. So let's dive right in. First up, appearing on, or beginning, excuse me, on page 42 of your board package is an updated customer service policy. Looks like, Nikki, do we have you? Do we have Mei-Ling?
Mei-Ling's on, and she will talk about it with you guys.
Yes.
Okay, perfect.
I am here.
Thanks. All right, go for it, Mei-Ling.
Faceless, but I'm here. So this is our most recent policy that Victor, Diana have been working on all of our public services policies. This is a brand new one. We did not previously have a customer service policy. Staff did have we'd ask staff sort of what questions or what they would like to see in a policy. And from that sort of built this. It is organized and based on a policy from the university library from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. We thought that the way that they have organized and sort of highlighted these aspects was really great and useful for us. So we adapted it. Generally, it is to guide staff in delivering consistent high levels of customer service to our community members, our fellow staff members, and any other library stakeholders that we come in contact with. So the acronym of GREAT is greet all community members and make them feel welcomed. ALD, respect cultural and other individual differences, evaluate and clarify expectations, address and respond to community member needs, and thank and verify that needs have been met. You don't have the procedures here, obviously, but procedures do go a little bit more into detail of some helpful sort of tips and ways to deal with customer service situations that might come up. And also throughout, staff are encouraged to discuss at any point if an existing policy is presenting a barrier to reasonable access, and to use their own common sense and good judgment to make any individual exceptions to a policy or procedure. So we are recommending that you review and approve this policy. And I can answer any questions.
Perfect, thank you. Any questions or feedback on this from Elaine? Go ahead, Terry.
Well, I just, not a question as much as a comment. I thought that this was really good, and I was really kind of smitten with the idea of the listening skills section that we're on there, on the evaluate and clarify expectations. Just the way that they're training people to hear what the people say, repeat it back to them, cogitate a little bit and give them the answer they wanted was just really nice to see. I don't think that people do enough of that these days. So I can tell that this is fundamentally a really good person-to-person document.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll echo Terry's sentiments on that. I thought it was terrific. There was one thing that I thought was interesting, and it's not really not a revision, it was just an observation. It strikes me that this is a policy really framed around one particular type of interaction or one particular iteration, which is a member of the community comes into a library building. In the sense that like the staff is already there, it's the staff's responsibility to welcome them, but I also was thinking as I was reading this policy about all the times where, the curiosity connection is out in neighborhoods, or we're in other people's spaces, or we're guests, in other locations. And I think that all of these principles of customer service are really important, but I also think, and I don't know how this would be framed in policy, but it's something around the idea of being a good guest and being a good collaborator, and the way that you greet people and the way that you engage with people is different when you're, in a library space versus when you're a guest in somebody else's space. It was just something that occurred to me. I don't know if that's useful feedback at all, but
yeah, no, that's useful. That may be something that we add into our procedures. The policy in general is meant to be used with any interaction that we have with public or within our staff as well, just to make sure that across the board we're always like making sure we hit these points and offer the same level of service to everyone. But yes, I appreciate that feedback, and we'll definitely add something about that in our procedures.
Yeah, no, I agree. Like, I think the policy is good as it stands, but it's the legacy of doing all this outreach work that that you all are doing, that we have to have good problems like these to deal with.
Yes, for sure.
Any other questions or feedback or comments on this policy? If not, then I would ask for a motion to approve the customer service policy as it appears in your board package. Let's jump in there. Anybody? You're all muted.
I move to, yeah, we are. I'll use my hand as usual. I move to approve the policy manual.
Okay,
Second.
perfect. All right.
Second.
Motion's made and seconded it. All right, we're cruising now. Any further discussion or debate on this item? All right, hearing none, we'll move to a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. Approved. Great job on this, guys. I think it's awesome. All right, we come next to a couple of job classifications to update. So these begin on page 46 of your board package. And we've got updated job classifications for both our librarian class and our marketing specialist position. And I would ask Nikki to just speak to these briefly.
Yeah, so actually this is almost like in coordination with the following policy, the updates to the personnel policies, and are largely stemming from wanting to have the professional level positions, which include librarian as well as marketing specialist, be designated as exempt, which would then put them into a 12-month introductory period. Just so you're all aware, I have spoke to all of the people that this policy would affect, which are I think 5 librarians and our marketing specialist, Bryn, that we just hired. The major change for them is that they'll no longer be clocking in and out, but being exempt, they will still need to work within their 40 hours. And as I said in the report, in researching several other library systems, as well as all of the other library systems I've worked for, typically librarian classification is an exempt, because sometimes you do have to work weekends or stay later and then adjust your schedule accordingly. So again, we want to make sure that as we're hiring moving forward, we'll have that full year to be able to evaluate and assess performance before passing staff's introductory period. Happy to answer any other questions.
So Nikki, there's basically another way to say it versus being exempt, they're salaried employees.
Yeah,
They're
they
not
won't be
hourly, they're
hourly.
salaried.
Right, correct.
They are hourly, they're salaried.
Salaried, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. Just one minor tweak to that position.
Yep. Any questions on this one? All right, then I'll ask for a motion to approve the updated librarian and marketing specialist job descriptions.
I will move.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and properly seconded. Any further discussion or debate? Hearing none, we'll take a roll call vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Sorry, I just noticed a typo. Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote for me. All right, perfect. Okay, next up, as Nikki mentioned, in conjunction with this, we have updated personnel policies, and I got distracted because policies is misspelled, so everything fell apart in my brain. And these begin on page 56 of your board package. So yeah, Nikki, would you like to speak to these are redlined, so you guys can see what's been changed, but if you want to just quickly summarize.
Yeah, as I mentioned, so these were approved in December, no, at your November meeting in 2020 and took effect December 1st. So in order to put management as well as the professional level staff in a 1-year introductory period, we needed to update the policies. And while we were in there, we made a couple other changes so that we could do it all at once and bring it to you at one time. So in addition to moving and to clarify, it's only the management and professional level staff that will move from a 6-month to a 12-month introductory period. All classifications from administrative assistant down will continue to have a 6-month introductory period. I did get a question about that, so wanted to clarify. So this will allow us that full year to be able to assess performance and do even more evaluations during that first year with these staff. In addition to that, we did change the vacation leave policy so that it continues to allow any new employee or promoted employee to still access vacation leave after 6 months. It used to be in the policy that it was attached to introductory period. So we changed that so all employees will be eligible to use vacation leave after 6 months. We also updated that any new hire will be required to use direct deposit rather than paper paychecks. We still have some employees that receive a paper check, but it's an additional expense as well as has to be shipped. And so moving forward, we're going to require that everybody use direct deposit. And then let's see. Oh, and we also added language to the policy about limiting how far in advance staff can ask for time off. We didn't have anything in the policy before we added the 6 months, which could be a bit problematic. I have recently had someone give me vacation leave requests for the end of 2022. I just think that's a little far out when we base these decisions on first come, first serve. So this will allow staff up to the next 6 months to request leave, with the exception of if someone comes to me, I can use discretion if it's farther out, someone's planning a really big trip or something like that. So that's the bulk of the changes. I'm happy to answer any questions the board may have about some of these.
I think they make perfect sense what you're trying to do here.
Mm-hmm.
So just a comment.
Terry, I saw a hand from you.
Am I unmuted? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think it's really well done, Nikki, and I like the changes that were made. Your explanation helps a lot too in terms of why they were made and how they're working. One thing that I didn't see, and I will confess to not reading every word, was do we have any kind of a commitment as a board to look at this at a regular interval? I know for a long time, personnel policies is something that had to be done, and we finally, got into it and so on. But it doesn't have to be done, as far as I know, every 2 years or 3 years or anything, right?
Not that we have written down anywhere. I do have a feeling that these are the kinds of things that do need to be updated pretty regularly. So I could see it coming to the board probably on a yearly basis. But prior to this update, the policies had been updated or revised, I should say, in 2018. But before that, it was many years before that. So not that I'm aware of, but again, these are the kinds of things that oftentimes do need to get tweaked depending on what's going on.
If I recall, and this is questionable now that I'm thinking about it, but we had at some point a whole schedule of all the policies with a recommended date of review. Do you remember this, Jerry? Where it was okay, every 3 year, Jason, you guys are remembering this, I'm not making it up, where it was because some of them have to be, some of the financial policies have to be reviewed on a certain interval.
Right.
And I think Cindy put it together. Anyway, it's floating around somewhere.
Audit. Yeah, she did an audit. Yeah. That's probably what you guys saw. Mealing.
Well, but then as part of that, there was a chart of this is how often you should look at all of these, which I thought was quite helpful.
Yeah, we can bring that back. That was what we used to build a lot of the new policies off of based on her recommendations. So we'll bring maybe an updated version of that to the board, either in November or December.
Or January. I mean, whatever.
Yeah,
but I do think, in the same way that we have an annual calendar, just to kind of put in place some norms of hey, boards of the future.
Yeah.
Every couple years you should be. I mean, it's built into our board policies that they require a review every 3 years. Yeah. But I don't know that it's, to Terry's point, built in that we are required to review all policies on any particular basis.
Okay.
Yeah, I remember being an issue.
Mhm.
I remember part of the delay was that we didn't have a lot of confidence in the personnel company that we had at the time, and we were waiting to kind of get out of the woods on that. And then we had made up a manual that was many years out of date. So it would be nice to have some kind of rhythm, whatever it is. So you're right, board of the teacher, this is what we expect you to do.
Okay, yeah, we'll put something like that together and bring it back to you. It's just been my goal since I started that we bring a policy a month, and thankfully I think we've pretty much maintained that. So
We've been knocking these out. Like we've been crushing this policy situation. You know, to start inventing some new policies to keep that pace happening.
Well, I was going to say, in light of the fact we don't have a schedule as to when to review, I do appreciate Nikki bringing these forward with consistency that you have. They're very well thought out, so I really appreciate you doing so, even if we weren't necessarily scheduled to see them.
yeah, well, that's probably the next thing, because I want to say Mei-Ling and Diana recently looked at that audit, and we've gotten a bulk majority of everything done. So the big next one is the financial policies. We definitely need those updated badly. I'll probably work with the accountants to do that, because I don't know exactly when we're going to have a manager on board to help with that process. So, and it really needs to happen, in my opinion. So yes, that'll be in the operational plan for 2022 for sure.
All right. Well, in the meantime, any other questions or feedback on the personnel policies as they appear today? Okay, then I will ask for a motion to approve the updated personnel policies.
So moved.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I'll second.
All right, motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion or debate? Let's vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an aye vote from me. All right, done. Thank you so much. And thank you for all of those updates. Next up, we've got two kind of procedural pieces of business that we do every year. So that's items D and E. We'll take them separately, but they often sort of go together. So on page 158, I'm scrolling madly to 158. We have our holiday and closure schedule for 2022. And these are all of our anticipated closure dates for holidays, for professional development days, or days that we anticipate early closures. So we approve this every year, and then that's what we do. That's it. It's not complicated. Any questions or discussions on this?
I just had a question about the flexible holiday on the 23rd. I can't remember, does that float around a little bit, or is it always just right before Christmas like that?
It's always right around Christmas, either
Okay.
like before or after those 2 days. Typically, I think at one point though, it sometimes gets put next to New Year's too, depending on the way things fall.
Okay.
But it's granted to staff. I'm assuming that was something that was given in lieu of a pay increase or something at some point, which is typically why we had things like the flexible, the holiday leave that the staff got that we incorporated into vacation. But I think the same thing with that. But it's either right around Christmas or New Year's.
That was it for
Okay.
me. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions? Maybe. All right, then I will ask for a motion to approve the holiday and closure schedule for 2022.
I'll move.
I'll
All
second.
right, nailed it. Any further debate? Nope. Let's vote. We're flipping through. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an I vote for me. Perfect. All right. So immediately following this in your board package on page 159 is our Board of Trustees meeting calendar. So once again, fourth Monday of the month, 5 p.m. As you know, we're always the fourth Monday, except generally in December, we move it around due to the Christmas holiday. And sometimes there's Labor Day or various other things that fall in conflict. But these are the regular meeting dates for 2022. Any discussion or observations on these? Anything you want to change? This is sort of your, oh, go ahead, Nikki.
I was just going to point out that I'm just double checking, but Diego, I don't think the date is right for the 26th of September, because is supposed to be Rosh Hashanah, I believe. So we had planned to move that to the 27th.
Got it.
So that would be I thought we had.
So that would be it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So when you guys vote, I think we should vote moving the September meeting to the 27th in observance.
Okay. So that would be on a Tuesday. That would be a Tuesday evening for that 1 month.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Got it.
Yeah. Otherwise they're, normal, with the exception of May, it's the 3rd, and December being the 3rd because of the way the holidays fall.
Okay. Everybody good with it? All right. And then I will ask for a motion to approve the calendar with the revision that the September meeting date is September 27th.
So moved.
Okay. Do I hear a second?
Second.
All right. Made and seconded. Any further debate? Let's take a vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an I vote for me. All right. And so our final piece of new business is our 30-day extension for our remote teleconference meeting. So this would be our extension through November 28th. We talked about this a fair amount last month, but this is basically just the resolution that continues it. We can talk about it again if anybody has any questions, but it's pretty self-explanatory. So the motion on this would be to approve resolution 2021-07.
Move.
Okay.
I'll second.
All right. Any further debate? Hearing none, we'll proceed to a roll call vote. Trustee Andrews.
Aye.
Trustee Capel.
Aye.
Trustee Cervantes.
Aye.
Trustee Wilkerson.
Aye.
And an I vote for me. All right, we're set for the next 30 days. Very good. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have reached the end of our new business. Any governance items that we'd like to discuss? Nikki has one.
So next month, we need to do my evaluation. I didn't know if you'd want to talk to the board about potentially starting the meeting early at the November meeting, being that it oftentimes has taken anywhere from an hour to 2 hours to complete that, or if you want to start at the regular 5 o'clock time. The other question I think we need to figure out is, last year, Betsy pulled it all together with the attorneys, I think. So I don't know if we need to have one trustee that kind of oversees the process or is in direct communication with our attorneys, so I think we need to nail all that out.
That is an excellent point. Yeah. So usually the way this works for our trustees who weren't here for this piece of it last year is we have like a written template that we go through that includes, here are all the goals that we set out and here are all the things, and then each of us provides written feedback which is then collated, and then we all get a copy of that, and then we sit down together in closed session, and we have a conversation as a board, and then we bring Nikki in and we have a conversation with her, and all that happens in closed session. And the reason it's complicated logistically is because of Brown Act stuff, right? So we can't just like all forward our things. So do we have somebody from BB&K who's coordinating with us? Nikki, do you know?
I would assume it would be our personnel attorney. His name is Roger Crawford. So I would assume,
Okay.
I think that's who Betsy worked through last year.
So I feel like there was nothing, I mean, I feel like all the administrative pieces of it probably Diego could do, in the sense that it's really just reminding trustees to do this, and then we send our stuff directly to BB&K. So it's not like it would go through, like we just send it directly, and then Diego can communicate with, Diego, I'm volunteering you for a lot of jobs, but like, you know what I mean? I'm happy to do it, but I don't know that it's necessarily more useful.
Okay. So
yeah.
maybe what we could plan is, I know my evaluative year ends November 4th. So what I could try to do is have all the goals and feedback to the board early that next week, which would give you guys maybe like that week to get it to Roger by that Friday, which is the 12th of November. Because we would need to publish the package the next week, even though that won't come back until you guys actually meet in closed session. That's when it'll be given to you. So
yeah,
does that timeline work for everybody? If I get it to my feedback by the 8th, and then you try to fill it out and get it to the attorney by the end of that week, which would be the 12th. Does that work? Okay.
So your feedback would include the template form that we need to work on as well?
Yeah. Yeah. We created a separate sheet that had my goals for the next year. So I'll fill that out with like what's been accomplished, get that to you, as well as the template that you would then fill out with your information. So we'll get you all the stuff that you need.
And that's the piece that would go to Roger for compilation, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll send directions as well. So it's like, do this, do this, do this, send it to Roger. Does everybody feel like a week is enough time? Because do we have to have we don't have to have the evaluations in hand before you finalize the board package, because they're not included in the board package.
Right.
Right. So like, because all we're doing is we're agendizing the evaluation, and our results of closed session would be that whatever the results of closed session are, but there's no, I mean, we could go to the 15th even. Wait, I'm looking at the wrong month, excuse me. We could give folks, because we meet on the 22nd. We could give folks until like Monday the 15th. It might be nice to have a weekend, just because like, it's kind of a long,
Yep.
Yeah.
To attorney by Monday. Yeah, I would say to give him at least a week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. And then in terms of how we do it, so Nikki's right. The closed session piece of it usually takes a while, just because it's, there's a lot of stuff we want to talk about, and that's really good and important. So we can do it a couple of different ways. We can start at 5 o'clock like we always do, in closed session at the beginning. We can start at 5 o'clock like we always do and do closed session at the end. We can start earlier and do closed session, so that then we start the sort of open session of the meeting in the same neighborhood of like 5, 6 p.m. All of those are fine. So it really is up to you all in terms of what you feel like would work better with your schedules. Now that I'm thinking about it earlier, I don't know if we can start earlier, because it is a regular meeting, right? So changing the time of a regular meeting, I don't think we can do that. I think that's sketchy. I think we have to start at the same time. So really the question is closed session beginning or closed session at the end.
I can also look that up.
Yeah. I think I'd recommend doing closed session to start with.
Okay. Go ahead, Terry.
I would say too that we should be cognizant of who's speaking, you know, and if we've got to put people in the, you know, the corral for an hour or 2 hours before they give their report or whatever. So I think we should, I don't know, think about that. Before, I remember last time we tended to have them at the beginning of the session, and then we would go with that report and proceed with business. Having it at the end is fine with me. I don't have a problem, but if we've got guests, that makes for a long night for them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we would do if we do closed session at the beginning, as we've typically done, is we would have our regular 5 p.m. start time, call the meeting to order, and then our first item would be closed session. We do that, and we would just, I mean, I think we would just estimate what our elapsed time is. So if we think it's going to take an hour and a half or 2 hours, we'll just tell everybody who's doing the rest of the meeting, like, hey, we'll start at 7, and if we, you know, and we'll just stick to that timeline. I just want to make sure that we have sufficient time as a board to, this is one of the most important things that we do, right, in the year is the director's evaluation. And I think it's really important that we have plenty of time to do it correctly. So should we, yeah, please.
Is there any interest if I can look up what the Board Brown Act allows, but I have been in boards that have their closed session before their regular meeting. They just can't start their open session until during regular, like, so for us, it'd be at 5 p.m. So if you choose to start earlier, you just would postpone or have a break for open session until 5 p.m. I believe that's allowable. I have seen multiple boards and commissions do that, but I can confirm it if that's of interest for you all, or we can leave it at 5 p.m. for closing.
Yeah, I've seen that as well, Diego. I mean, that's definitely possible. I mean, I'd be open to that. I'm obviously I'm concerned about staff and speakers have to wait for us, and but this is very important. I want to make sure that we have, you know, our focus attention on this. And if we could have the window to, if schedule permits for everyone, perhaps we could start earlier, so we can have a robust conversation and then start no later, you know, sometime any time after 5 o'clock then for our regular agenda.
Camila, what are you thinking?
I was going to say that would be my preference as well, to have an earlier closed session and start, if I'm understanding you correctly, Diego, then start the regular meeting at 5 o'clock instead of starting the meeting and then having folks on hold.
Yeah. So for example, I've seen boards that start their closed session maybe an hour or two before their open meeting, and if they finish earlier, they just have a break or don't convene until 5 p.m. So because that is the scheduled time that they put the notice to the public.
And real quick question, we're talking about the November 22nd meeting that this would happen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so okay,
that's right. So what, just to make sure we don't have to like mess with it, would a 3 p.m. start be viable for folks, or 3:30? What do you think?
Be okay with that.
Okay.
I'm open to either. I mean, if it takes 2 hours, you know, you have perspective and history of doing this, but you know, three.
Sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it doesn't. I mean, it's you know, and if we have a half an hour, then we just all take a break until 5. But yeah.
Well, I've got a lot of things to say about Nikki, so maybe
well,
4 hours.
Watch out. Yeah, there you go. Camila, Jason, do you guys have a preference on time to start? That'll make your life.
So early start here works for me.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, with I have advanced planning, so I can make some plans around that. So early is fine, and since it's early, doesn't really matter if it's 3 or 3:30.
Okay, then let's plan for 3. Like I said, if we have extra time, then we'll just all take a break until 5. But I think it's better to do that than to say, gosh, I really wish we would have had an extra half hour to have this conversation. Okay, so Diego, you'll let us know what we need to do to make that all legit.
Yeah, sounds good. I'll follow up with you all and send a new calendar invite, one for the open session and one for the closed session.
Perfect. Okay.
And remind me,
Camila, yeah, please.
Remind me, I'm sorry, is there business that we're going to need to do before that session? Okay.
Nope.
Okay.
Nope. So what we'll do is,
remember, I've been here since June, but I'm a little bit confused as to what our process would be. Because I remember we had to do something before in terms of like giving feedback or whatnot, but we do not have to do that this evaluation. Okay. Got it.
No, I'm trying to remember what you're thinking of, but yeah, no, for this one, basically what will happen is the attorneys will collate all the forms that we fill out, like with our individual comments, and we'll, when we start closed session, give those all to us. If they do it beforehand, it's a Brown Act issue. So at the beginning of closed session, we'll all get a copy. We'll probably take 10 minutes just to look through everybody else's comments. We'll have a discussion among ourselves and, kind of get aligned. And then we'll ask Nikki to join us and then we'll have a conversation with her.
That's what I was referring to, the comments.
Oh, okay.
So that is something that we will have to do beforehand. That we'll
So
work on.
so that's what we were talking about.
Yeah.
That Nikki's going to get us those goals by the end of next week. And then we'll have until the 15th of November to write our comments. I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding you. Yeah. So so we'll have all of that submitted to the attorneys by the 15th.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. There was a little section that I missed. This background noise here.
All right. Anything else on this? Or are we feeling good? Okay. Very cool. Perfect. Thank you. No correspondence this month that I'm aware of. We have discussed two future agenda items. Our district director evaluation and an item on redistricting. Anything else anybody wants to throw on the list for November or December? Okay. Well, then if there is nothing else, that brings us to the conclusion of our business. Oh, perfect. And it is exactly 7 p.m. So that's very auspicious. So I would ask at this time for a motion to adjourn, please.
So moved.
Perfect. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, motion's been made and seconded. Any objection? Hearing none, we are adjourned at 7 p.m. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. Have a nice evening.
All right.
Okay, you too.
Have a good one.
Bye.
Bye.